what's it called? Swords are a lot like swords are a lot like catalytic converters. You can't just take one of them, okay? You got to steal like five or six. Uh, tactically acquire about five or six catalytic converters. So the best way to steal a catalytic converter, no, I'm joking. Don't steal catalytic converters. That will not be good for your soul and also not good for your wallet. Now, what's better? What's cheaper? Being an alcoholic or being into competitive HEMA? This is a good question. The answer probably is being an alcoholic. Being an alcoholic is probably cheaper than being a full-time HEMAist. Let me think about this. So what? How much is like beers? So let's just say hypothetically you drink 40 beers per week. Plus, how much would that cost? Maybe what? A couple $100 per month, maybe. That's about the same as a HEMAS will spend. But also, you got to remember, like this sword probably costs. Well, it only costs about 450 to make. But then you got to have it shipped to you, which is like $100 from Europe. Then you got to pay VAT, and after that you pay shipping, and after you pay shipping, then you finally get to your doorstep. You hit your friend with it, he snaps it over your face, and then you get all mad and sad because you just spent 8 months to get a sword to you, and then it breaks on someone's face. It'd be like that. So let's see. Okay, now hypothetically, what is more cheaper? We're talking about this. Like, is it cheaper to become an alcoholic or cheaper to be a HEMAist? These are the real questions that should be asked. Because think about it. If you're an alcoholic, okay, you're probably having a lot of fun until you're not. HEMA's a lot like that. You're having a lot of fun, but then you start competing and you're trash. And then you're not having so much fun anymore. But then your sword breaks and you're really sad because it's like $500. Now, let's think about this. A lot of people are asking why HEMA is not more accessible. The answer is purely economic. When you're asking someone to join a sport and you're like, oh, hey, you should join this sport, the answer is like, hey, the right thing that you need to do to be a HEMAist, you need to go out and you need to spend like $500. That's like not the right answer for anyone. But that's like basically what it. God loves you, God loves you, God loves you. Okay, cool. Anyways, swords. Shall we talk about it? Is it cheaper to be a HEMAist or to be an alcoholic? The answer probably, once again, is to be an alcoholic. Because here's how much one sword costs, okay? So this is the Sigi concept. So the Sigi concept is probably like the meta, roughly, in competitive HEMA right now. So this and like the Sea Gothic, this is like very simple. You can get it more, but like the base model is about, I'd say the base model is about $500, roughly. And then once again, you have to get it shipped to you, which is about $100 roughly. Then you have to pay tariffs, which is about 10 to 20%. So I think it's about, I'd say about $90 roughly. So once you get it to you, you have like a 12-month warranty on that. But then again, you have to also wait 6 months for it to be made. So that's the main thing. So if you want to get into HEMA, I would say that the best thing for you to do is you join a club, because if you're trying to do this like on your own and start this on your own, you're probably gonna have to invest like $3,000 into it. So it's probably not the best idea for what you're doing. Now, this gets even worse when you kind of get into alternative weapons, because like the rapier seems like a relatively more like delicate weapon, because you're fighting with the rapier, and you're like, oh well, we're gonna hit each other less hard, or we're gonna not fight each other as hard, and so my rapier won't snap as hard. But you gotta remember. Is it sharp though? No, if it was, there'd be a lot of dead people fighting. Anyways, so when you stab someone, this kind of fletches kind of like severely, and it most likely, I'd say that it probably It's a lot more expensive to become a rapierist because the blades just snap more often. And then, of course, once again, there's more complex guards for those as well. So, I'd say like the most attainable thing for most people would be probably like the saber. The saber usually only costs like $300-400 to get into. Um, Although, and they do last. I mean, like if you use like a heavy cavalry saber or like a heavier saber, they'll probably last for like a year roughly. If that's your main thing that you're doing. Another cheap option would be like the single stick. So the single stick is a basically what you a trainer that they were used in the 18th century, um, but it's basically just a big hickory stick with a like a leather basket hilt. Um, Now this does not feel pleasant to get hit with. So one sec. Let me grab something. Yeah. So the thing about this is the single stick is probably the cheapest thing for you to get into because like you can just do single stick with just a helmet because while it is relatively hard, it's not like if you get hit with this, it's not gonna feel great, but it's not as necessary to have like super padded things for it. For like example, you could probably get away with just using a jacket and gloves. Except, what is the offhand sword? What brand is this? Oh, this sword is from. I think this sword's from Regnier. Yeah. Anyways, so continuing on. Yeah. Particularly for rapier, when I can get away with it, I use this. This is a Franken rapier of my own idiotic construction. It is a épée blade. It is a French grip pommel, a HF paring dagger pommel, a Spanish cup hilt, and a side sword grip. Now you might be like, where are you getting these, bro? There's a good question. You're getting it from my wall back there. Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, back to what I was saying. So this is like 500 grams. So the average rapier is probably like about 1,000 to 1,100 grams. This is probably about 600 grams. This sucks to fight, and it is extremely fletchable. So you can just fletch it over someone's guard, and then just stab them in the face, kind of like an épée. Anyways, continuing on. Now, the best entry level like HEMA sword is probably the VB. So the VB is made by a Hungarian company. So this is probably like the best one I would recommend. It is a let's see, it's about 1,100, 1,200 grams, I'd say. The flex test on this is like pretty good. It's relatively flexible. I'd recommend the medium. If you're gonna get into HEMA, this is probably what I would recommend most people get. It is probably like the most common thing in the United States. Besides that, and the Regniers will probably be the most common swords that are there. Let's see. This also is like the cheapest and the most attainable to get. Like if you break a blade, it's interchangeable. So like for example, you break a blade. Let's see. Let me go grab something. Yeah, you break a blade, you can take these apart. So for example, let's just say I broke this one. You can unscrew the pommel. Yeah, I know, crazy. Unscrew the pommel, take out the guard, and replace it. It's probably last time I went to a sword shop. Yeah. Anyways, that's pretty cool. Yeah. So these are relatively good for like just the interchangeability because they're just available. So let's put that back together. Yeah. Bro, is that a spear? No, it's not. Unfortunately, this is just a regular fetter. Yeah, it does. It does kind of look like a spear now that I think about it. Yeah. So for paring dagger, I would recommend the HF. These are probably like the easiest to get. Honestly, you can do that or the Regniers. The thing about yeah, from yeah. So, anyways, back to what I was saying. The HFs are relatively simple. They're pretty good construction. The main problem is that they tend to they're threaded down here. So the more damage they take, the more the threadings come out, and then the pommel comes out. So you might end up having to ping the whole thing. That's what I had to do with this. As you can see, the pommel kind of dripped off, so I had to put a nut on there and then ping it back. So it's relatively like not the greatest thing that you could ever do, but the thing is they're $180, so it's it's relatively cheap. So if you want a paring dagger, this is what I would go with. I don't use a paring dagger. I don't compete in rapier and dagger because it's a skill issue on my part. Yeah. Anyways, continuing on. So let's see. Yeah, this is what I would recommend for a lot of people. If for like the basic rapier, this is the Regnier like basic Italian rapier. It's like 1,100 grams. You can hold this with one hand fairly easily, even with like a very received grip. So like if you want to do a Tybalt grip or like a fingered grip or like a two-fingered grip, it's relatively good. I mean, it's the fletch is really good on it. It's relatively point controlled. It's a pretty good it's a pretty good weapon. Yeah. No, I know. The thing about this sport is it's extremely expensive, which is why I live in an apartment that costs like $660 a month. I know it's crazy. Yeah. You gotta live for your passions, dog. You know, you gotta live for your passions. Yeah. Anyways, let's see what we got here. Um, yeah, no, the sad part about HEMA is it's you're like, oh yeah, you should come do this. You should come do this weird thing, and you should come do this weird thing, and you should fight people with long swords. By the way, it costs just the jacket costs $300. Yeah, but once you have your gear, it lasts quite a while. You spent more money than you pay for rent. I did do that. I know. This is called having your priorities in the wrong place. This is what no wife does to a guy. I know, this is crazy. You see, this is why I think this talks about like the importance of marriage. Because now I have eight and now I have like 12 swords. Um, and if I had a wife, maybe I would only have like four swords. Hmm. Yeah, it's a great idea. Now let's go put some of these back. All right, cool. Let's see. All right. Yeah, no, this is why I said in the beginning that it would probably be cheaper to be an alcoholic. Um, okay. Anyways, back to what I was doing. Okay. All right. No, I would say out of all of them, my favorite is the Siggy concept. It is also probably because I spent the most on it. Um, it is. I like this quite a bit. Its flex test is really good. Its center of flex is really good. It has a like a 30 millimeter cross handle, which is really good. I like the onion pommel. It's very relatively like it's very good to use for center. Like for example, here. Let me give you an example. So this is thumb grip, okay? So like for example, if you want to transition to like ox from this, it is like the pommel doesn't really get in the way. If you want to go off into like flow off into like this vertical from there, it is relatively point heavy. It's I like it. It's really good. Well, a lot of people don't like the shield. Like it, they think that it like comes down and you can like go into your hands. That's called a skill issue. Just don't get hit. Yeah. No, but yeah, I like the shield too on it. I like this type of construction. I had it inscribed with the Cairo. Um, uh, I like purple. You know, most of my cross guards are purple. So yeah. Anyways, uh, yeah. Let's see what we got here. Don't tell me you spent more than $100 on this. It's called priorities, and they're all in the wrong place, you know, dog. Hey, at least I'm not a gambling addict. I feel like that would be worse. Um, you know, gambling is not as cool as swords. You know, think about what's cooler: swords, gambling. You have too much. The answer is you can never have too many swords. You can never have too many swords. Um, you can. You can. I don't gamble. Yeah, yes, exactly. You can never have too many swords. Oh, okay. Anyways, so hypothetically, this is all I'm thinking. All right, this is what I'm thinking. Maybe the answer to all this is to get another sword. Okay, hypothetically, the answer to all the problems here is another sword. I think this is a great idea. This is probably like the greatest idea I've ever had. You know, think about it. Think about it. It's people are like the law of diminishing returns, but I get no diminishing returns from buying another sword and another one and another one. I don't get less diminishing happiness from it. So hypothetically, exponentially, the more swords I own, exponentially, the more happiness I will have. Um, so let me just put this down really quick. Okay, cool. All right. All right. What do we want to talk about? Yeah, swords. You want to talk about swords? Swords are cool. Now, y'all want to read from the sources? Let's read from the sources. Okay. So poor Meyer died of like tuberculosis or something after he wrote this book. So let's read this. Now people are like the sources are incomprehensible. I think that's a skill issue. Let's think about it. Okay, so this is what I use most of for most of the fencing that I do. It's the foundation of the art of fencing. Probably not like the best thing to use. You might be like, why is this not the best thing to use? The answer is this is kind of written as like a dueling treatise rather than like a fighting treatise. So there's a slight variation between this. So like people, let's see, when looking at like later sources, you tend to look at this and be like, wow, that's less brutal than earlier sources. For example, like this. Like this looks less fundamentally brutal than for example, let me show you something. Okay. So this is the Württemberg Treatise by Hans Tonhofer. It was written in the 1460s, I think. Let's see. Yeah. Just grab this. Oh yeah, here it is. Here's a great example. Now you might be like, how when you think of like sword combat, you don't often think of like kicking someone in the chest as they run away from you, or you don't really particularly think of like, oh, someone is about to die. You're going to take the cross and rip out their their face. For example, um, that seems quite brutal, but that's just the answer of like older combat. Let's say. Okay, cool. Yeah. So, like for example, some older treatises might have slightly more brutal interpretations to them. For example, you know, you might in older treatises you might see like this crossguard being used as more of a lever. Um, let's see. Let me grab a glove. Yeah, yeah. You might see it being used as more like a lever. So, like for example, if someone has fallen onto the floor, you might take this and like wrap it like around their neck and just like yank it from there, and then you finish them off from there. That seems a slightly more brutal than like the later dueling treatises, but there's applications to both processes. There's applications to, getting in, attacking, and then leaving after like one or two bouts, and there's also uses to just winning until they're dead. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah. So this is another great example of like, because people think about like the Morgschlag. Like whenever people ask about like old treatises, they're like, oh well, my favorite move is like the Morgschlag or something stupid like that. But I mean, you can use that definitely against someone. It is relatively like you can do it, but you can also use this as a hook. Like you can use this as, for example, if someone throws like a Zornhau at you, in like the proceeding, you can just block with the cross and then wrench it down from there, and then go into different proceedings from there. Like it's not like super defined on what you're supposed to do. Why does it look like they don't have clothes on? Now, the funny thing about that is, they in this source specifically they do, but in like Italian sources, they're all naked. I don't know why. It's more of just like the kind of the way they did all these things. So. Yeah, so like Febreze, like Salvatore Febreze, all the dudes are like naked. It's very funny. It's very funny because you're just like, oh, I'm trying to learn about fencing, and I'm seeing some guys dangling. Anyways, let's see what we got here. View message. Not particularly. I think most of the time it's used to like show like the physiology of like what you're trying to like attack. Um, like for example, if you want to stab someone in the liver, it's much easier to show someone actually getting stabbed in the liver. Than for example, if you know one thing about like medieval clothing in the 14th century is it's very globular. Like you see how it like globs out. Even in like, for example, the 15th, 16th century, it's very like it's not as defined on where everything is. Yeah, let's see, for example, like where's this guy's liver? You might be like, where's this guy's liver? Well, there's all this puffy stuff here. There's all this Plunderhausen. So, I mean, it's relatively it was just, I mean, one, it was the style, and two, it just helps show the physiology of the person. So yeah. All right. Anyways, so I need to leave pretty soon because I have to go take my horse out and feed it so it doesn't get really mad at me. Because if you don't feed your horse, it Chinese. Yes, that's so great. Amazing. We it's a great comment there. You must have thought that up very long and hard. Hmm. Anyways, back to what I was saying. Chinese horse. Chinese horse. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's not a Chinese horse. My in China. Let's see what we got here. Now, hypothetically, the funny thing about the Tonhofer treatise is there's a slight addition of what people call like the divorce hole. This should like potentially show like a judicial duel between like a wife and a husband. Now, people don't know if this is like a divorce or just a duel between a man and a woman, but it would make sense if this is um, a husband and a wife. Um, Now, you might think of how do you actually do this duel? Well, for one, you get into a hole. Like you put the man in a hole and you tie his hand behind his back. You give him a club, and you give the wife like a sack of rocks. And then they proceed to beat the crap out of each other until one of them is dead. Now, how do you beat your wife? You might be like, well, the great answer is when she comes to hit you with that sack of rocks, you're gonna suplex her. Okay. Now, you might be like, how do you beat your husband? Um, the right thing to do is you got to choke him out. Yeah, you see that? Put him in a guillotine. Now, you might be like, well, that doesn't sound as effective. I don't want to guillotine my husband. Right thing to do, rear naked choke, right there. Now you might be like, well, how do I destroy my wife? The answer is suplex her right back into that hole. Yeah, just take her, grab her, suplex her right into that hole. Now you might be like, okay, how do I get to that location? Well, you see this, you can lever, you can use you can use her as her own lever for her own demise. Now, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Anyways, I'm gonna go take my horse out pretty soon. So I'm gonna go put these books back really quick. Let's see. Why did my TV just get turned on by itself? This is a ghost in my house. Why is there a ghost in the house? Oh God. Let's see. All right. Let me just go put these back really quick. Okay. All right. So, anyways, if you want to look at all the fencing content, it's mostly in the shorts. I don't exactly know what I'm going to post. The thing about it is, I only post what I find interesting myself. I don't really post to the algorithm. It just so happens that what I post people like. Um, so yeah, I'm just gonna keep doing that. I'll talk to most of you guys later. And yeah, if you guys have any questions, just feel free to put it in my community post or something like that. See you guys.